Mr. DeYoung,
Here.
Mr. Kometz,
Present.
Mr. Moran,
Here.
Mr. Paradiso,
Here.
Mr. Janowick, sorry, Chief Flores,
Here.
Chief Willman.
Here.
We do not have liaison Michael Schilling with us tonight, but we do have Councilmans Blazak and Pondinas with us.
I need a motion to approve the minutes from January 8th, 2020 special town council and safety board meeting, and individually or combined January 20th, 2020 regular safety board meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. I'll second it.
Motion by Mr. Kamen, seconded by Mr. Paradiso. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Monthly reports, Chief Bowman.
During the month of January 2020, the St. John Fire Department responded to a total of 187 requests for assistance. There were 156 in District 1, which is our incorporated limits. There were 19 in District 2, which is unincorporated limits, that we under contract with the St. John Township. There were 12 calls in District 3, which is all other destinations, including mutual aid. Excuse me. Our mutual aid this month was Lake Hills Fire and EMS, Cherville Fire and EMS, Crown Point Fire Rescue, and Cedar Lake. We went to all those facilities. Our Monday evening activities during January included January 6th was a business meeting for the volunteer division of the fire department. 2 vacancies on our board of directors were filled. Both positions were for 3-year terms. January 13 was a training that covered review and policies and procedures associated with any confined space rescues or challenges when St. John Fire may be requested to respond. January 20 was an EMS in-service regarding a mandatory OSHA requirement addressing exposures to bloodborne pathogens in the workplace. The fire department must document this training on an annual basis. Finally, January 27th was an indoor emergency vehicle operations certification class that covered a lecture session dealing with the rules of the road and an overview of the skills and considerations associated with driving and positioning emergency apparatus. Later on in the better weather, we will be outside behind the wheel doing the practical hands-on evolutions. That's it, thank you.
Chief Flores.
Okay, from January 1st, 2020 through January 31st, 2020, the members of St. John Police Department logged 23,368 miles and responded to 574 law incidents. The investigation of these incidents led to 28 arrests, with 47 charges being filed. There were 218 traffic citations issued, along with 240 written warnings, for a total of 458 citations being issued during the month. Vehicle thefts totaled $0. Other thefts totaled $8,367. Recovered property totaled $50.
New business, Chief Bowman.
Okay, I'm gonna include an EMS activity report. I never was in a habit of doing that for the last 18 years, but now that we have a commission, I do. So during January, we had a total number of patient contacts of 159. Our transports were 69% of that number, 110. We said 22 refusals. We had 26 lift assists. Our transport types, 75% was ALS, 25% was basic life support. In the breakdown of residents to non-residents, we did 72 residents and 38 non-residents. That's our EMS. Now for some new business. I'm gonna deal just with personnel tonight. Robert Van Kyken started full-time December 21st, 2020. He was formerly a firefighter paramedic at Cedar Lake Fire and EMS. He brought the number of full-time staff to 8 paramedics and 1 full-time firefighter EMT. In addition, Van Kyken filled a vacancy that we have had since full-time member left in May of 2019. Caitlin Deal is currently scheduled to be promoted to full-time firefighter paramedic on March 14th, 2020. Caitlin began in St. John when she was a part-time firefighter EMT in 2017, continued her EMS training at Franciscan Health Crown Point, the medical direction for St. John Fire and EMS. In June 2019, she became certified as a National Registry paramedic. In June of 2019, she was promoted to part-time firefighter paramedic for St. John Fire and EMS. She has also been employed for several years as a technician in the emergency room at St. Anthony Hospital in Crown Point. Caitlin has currently been approved by our local 1977 Fund Pension Board. We are awaiting her approval from the State Pension Board. Until that time, she will remain as a part-time firefighter paramedic in St. John. The town will then have 9 full-time firefighter paramedics and 1 full-time firefighter EMT. We feel very fortunate to be welcoming both of these firefighter paramedics to our full-time staff at this time. Within the next 30 days, the St. John Fire Department hopes to be adding at least 2 more part-time firefighter paramedics to our part-time staff. We currently have approximately 30 part-timers that are state certified firefighters. They are all certified paramedics or EMTs. Some of the part-time members are employed at other public safety agencies in our area. Some are current volunteers, former volunteers of St. John Volunteer Division. One candidate is currently a full-time paramedic firefighter in Cherville. The other is a young man who joined St. John Fire Department in December 2013. He had recently relocated from Glenwood Springs, Colorado to St. John, and at that time he was living with his wife's parents in St. John. He had already earned his certification as a National Registry paramedic and was looking to join the fire department to begin his career. He joined the St. John Volunteer Fire Department, began as a paramedic at Prompt Ambulance, and was on his way. He was a volunteer member of St. John Fire from May of 2000 until May of 2018. He also worked part-time for Tri Creek Ambulance in Lowell till 2018. He started nursing school in 2014. He worked in Cedar Lake 2017, went on to school to finish his Bachelor of Science degree in nursing. He is currently working at Riverside Medical Center in Kankakee as a registered nurse in the ICU unit. He was an exemplary employee at St. John Fire and EMS. He has worked with several public safety agencies in our area. Since 2013, has been highly respected by his employers and those who have worked with him. And then it goes on to on his date of employment. That's gonna be a coordination between you guys, or you members, you guys, I guess that wasn't appropriate, and the town manager, now that we have a town manager. But I just wanted to introduce the fact that we are continuing to work with that, even though everything isn't in place. We don't wanna stop, we wanna keep going. At the first of the year, we lost 5 part-timers, but it's because they went on to other jobs. 2 of them were working part-time and were hired full-time at other agencies. One of them took a job as a critical care nurse, but now he works nights, and he always worked nights on shifts here, so things like that happen, and so we don't wanna get behind. So that's why I'm working on these 2. And that's it.
Chief Lawrence?
Okay, first item I have is the approval, looking for approval and certification of our emergency hire list, which will be voted on by the members of the safety board. I do have the eligibility list, the hire list that we put together. So basically, just to kind of give you a history of what took place over the last month and a half, we put out, posted a job posting, which was emergency hire to fill the vacancy that was created by our past chief when he had left. The emergency hire process, as you know, is basically you put it out there for officers that are currently police officers in the state of Indiana that are certified through the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy, as well as being members of our police pension fund. So those were the criteria that you had to meet in order to be able to apply for the emergency hire list. Out of the, once we posted it, we gave 2 weeks for them to turn it in. We ended up getting, I think it was 19 or 18 applications. And out of those, it dropped down to 13 because there was a couple that weren't eligible. There were some that, like one that was a police officer in Illinois, which they don't qualify. So it dropped it down to 13. And out of those 13, one of them decided he didn't want to go through the process. So he called and said, you know, I've changed my mind basically and want to remove my name from the process, which dropped it down to 12. So we came up with a final list, which we had an interview board, which consisted of 7 of our sworn members of the police department from all different ranks, from our deputy chief to commanders, corporals, and some patrol officers. So it was kind of a nice mix of officers that interviewed the potential candidates. So at the conclusion of that, the background investigations, and the interviews, we came up with the final list, like I said, which is the 6 candidates. The first candidate, his name is Eric Califf. After the list is certified and approved, if you so choose to do that, that's the officer or the person that I want to recommend that we get approval to move forward with hiring him. So Eric comes from the Dyer Police Department. He's got 4 years on there. Prior to the Dyer Police Department, he spent 4 years in the Marine Corps. He has a bachelor's degree from Purdue. Is a very well-respected police officer in the area here, and very, I think he'll be a great asset to our department, and he's a really good person overall. He's involved with the Northwest Regional SWAT team currently in Dyer, so he's a firearms instructor, which will help us out tremendously in that aspect, in terms of our training for firearms. So I think Eric will be an outstanding addition to our department, so he's the one that made number 1 on the list. So, but before we do that, I do have the emergency hire list for all members to sign if and when it is approved. However, I did notice that the dates on here were from Monday, which is the 24th, so we have to change that to the 28th, which I can take care of that. But once you sign it, I can fix the dates later on if you choose to approve this. So I'm looking for approval. I'll give this to the safety board president to review. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. The other officers on the list, the number 2 officer on the list is also from Dyer. We had officers from Lowell, Maryville. There was a couple that were from East Chicago. But of course, out of the 12, some of them didn't make the list. But those officers there are pretty close by within where they're working now. So, and Eric, he also, with him coming in as an emergency hire, the object of that is to be able to get them on the road and boots on the ground as quick as he can. And Dyer shares the same frequency we do. All their paperwork generally is the same exact thing. All the computer system is the same exact thing. So the transition's gonna be basically all he's gonna have to learn is geography. And he can move right in and boots on the ground probably within about 3 weeks, we're hoping, and he'll be on solo patrol. So,
Chief, if I may, is that common practice that you guys interview your own with local, I don't know, that process seems kind of strange to me that you got patrolmen interviewing patrolmen, as far as, so, I mean, to me.
it wasn't all patrol. It was a deputy chief, commander.
No,
So-
I understand that, but it almost seems like it could be a good old boys club to me, of everybody knows everybody on the street. Has that been common practice for that type of interview?
No, this is something new that we've done this time with the interview process. There are several departments in the area that use that same process. And it worked out pretty well. I mean, as far as, you know, our officers are familiar with the way the town works and what way we're structured. So I think with the way we did it, it gave everybody a chance of an outlook of what would fit in with St. John. And that's why from the deputy chief down to the lowest person that was on the interview board was able to give the input as to what, you know, they're looking for within the town.
Not including, I mean, I know this process has started before all this board was set. In the future, I would hope that some of the board would be included in that, and not just an internal interview of just department personnel. I mean, all of us have worked public safety, and I know all of us have worked small towns of public safety, so it's kind of easy to start picking and choosing based on maybe not criteria, but based on prejudices or words on the street or other things like that. I don't know if that's 100% fair process, in my opinion.
Okay?
But in the future, I would like to have some discussions here, if the board and the president agree, that there should be a little bit more involvement from the outside.
Okay.
Chief, how long was this posted and where at for the advertisement?
It was posted on our website, as well as, we put out a message through our local agencies, or, you know, through Lake County. And, because we had officers from, there was one officer that was like from, South Bend. We had officers from like out east. There was a couple from down south, southern Indiana. So, yeah, it reached out pretty much throughout the whole state. We had it on the Academy's website. The Indiana Law Enforcement Academy website was on there. So it was posted throughout pretty much the whole state. And it was up for, about 2.5 weeks is the time period they had to get the apps and then get it turned in.
I got a question. Is there a FTO, like, initiation into the laterals that come in?
Yeah, there is.
How long is it?
Generally, like with an emergency hire, it just depends, like with Eric, it'll go pretty quick, because basically all he's learning is our geography and our policies and procedures, which doesn't take a ton of time to learn. So I'd say with somebody like him, generally, it'll probably take 3 weeks, maybe 4. But if it's a brand-new hire, there's like a 4-phase process they go through. Phase 1, 2, 3, and 4, and that's obviously much longer, and that could take several months to get through that. But, you know, for like an emergency hire process, it's streamlined.
And then, is there a probationary period?
Yes, for 1 year,
For 1 year?
yes.
Anybody else?
Excuse me, make sure to turn your microphone on when you speak so they can hear, because everything live streams and that way the recording picks it up. Sorry about that.
Anybody else? Nope. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve and certify the emergency hire list presented by the Chief Flores.
Second?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear if anybody made the motion.
Oh, I'd like to make the motion that we approve and certify the emergency hires list.
Okay, now I need a second.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Moran, second by Mr. DeYoung to approve the certified list. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. So next would be approval to hire Eric Califf, the emergency hire candidate, asking for approval from the safety board as well.
Okay, so I need a motion to a approved emergency hire candidate.
I'll make a motion to approve. I'll make a motion to approve them.
Okay, I have a motion from Mr. Paradiso, second.
I will second.
Second by Mr. Moran. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Thank you. So the, number 3 under B, B3, that the town council, at their last meeting, approved the funding for a 23rd officer, which obviously we're very grateful for. So I'm looking to try to get that as soon as possible as well, too, because we're still down, not only when Chief Cavitan left, That created a vacancy. It shorted a detective too, out of the bureau, so I'm gonna have to move a patrol officer into the bureau to give us back to 2 detectives. So that 23rd officer I wanna get in there, as soon as we can, because that's gonna short patrol one. Once I move the patrol officer into the bureau to give us the 2nd detective, so right now, my plan is, I know there was some discussion tonight with Councilman Blazak as far as how that's gonna work. I'm hoping possibly to get that worked out, and if things work out, you present that to you at next month's meeting, so we don't have to worry about that tonight.
So, the board didn't make the approval for the second hire, so we're still on a pre-approval, correct?
Yeah, well, I was gonna, because the way it was gonna work Monday, at the meeting, I was gonna ask for pre-approval contingent upon the council's.
Correct.
Yeah,
correct.
so, since now the council already did that, and tonight, the meeting was after,
So,
I thought it was gonna be one after another, but we're gonna hold off on that until next week. I'm sorry, next month's meeting. So, what I'll do is, present that to you at next month's meeting, if, the council decides that we can move forward with that one, to do it like right now. And then, once you approve it, then the council because all they did is approve the funding for it, right? They didn't approve the hire at this point.
okay, so we're still on pre-approval for the next hire then? That's what I'm asking.
No, you guys, I guess you could, but you could probably wait till next month's meeting, because you meet prior to the council next month.
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
no, I'm only asking because that's what's written here still and.
Right.
Okay, so right now we're just.
We're just leaving it
okay,
alone for now.
Okay, so all right,
Until
that's
next
what I need to
month,
know.
yeah.
Thank you.
Chief, can we get any background information on the remaining candidates on that list?
Sure. So Daryl Schaefer also is from the Dyer Police Department. He's been there, I can't remember exactly how long he's been there. I didn't bring his packet because I knew we were gonna be discussing it. He's been there probably, I would say, 6 to 8 years. Prior to that, he was with the East Chicago Police Department. He's got several years of experience. He's a crash investigator. He has the certifications for that to do traffic crash investigations. He was a past K-9 officer, and he's from Cherville area. So he's another one. He knows our policies and procedures, and it would be a quick, turnaround as far as him getting out on the road as quick as possible. So, the rest of the candidates I don't have with me right now as far as their packets, because I wasn't expecting to go over them, but I can certainly put some stuff together and send to you all an email, just so you kind of see what they're about prior to next month's meeting. I'll send all that information to you. And also, just so you guys are aware, I've been sending everything to you guys through the town's email. So you be on the lookout for that, because I'll shoot you information prior to meetings, so you know kind of what's gonna be brought up and what's coming forward. All right, and then the next thing I was looking to do is to get approval to start a new hire process. Basically, all this is just generating a list that's good for 2 years, so if we end up getting a vacant, or if we get approval for an additional hire, not an emergency hire, but to add another officer, this would be a brand-new hire, like somebody without the academy, no experience. This is somebody that's brand new. Generally, we do this, it's a 2-year list just to establish the list. So if we do get approval to hire, say, a year and a half from now, we have that list that we can pull from. So that would be the full process, which includes the, obviously, the application, written test, psychological, physical agility, the whole 9 yards for that process. So I'm asking for approval to get that process going so we can get a 2-year list certified.
And again, where and how long is this advertised?
That we'll advertise that just like we did with the emergency hire through our website, the Academy's website. And with that one, there's a little more information that needs to be added with that, because, they're not police officers and so on and so forth. So they're all brand new. So we generally give them about a month, month and a half to pick up the applications, to have them turned in. So it's not a huge, hurry to get that done. Just, you know, you don't want to stretch it out within 6 months, but I'd say once we advertise it, within a couple months, we'll have a list of people that are gonna start testing, the testing process.
Go ahead.
So you're gonna hire an agency to do the testing? Is that how
Yeah,
it
we're
works?
we're looking around now to see what kind of tests are out there, to see if there's something better than what we've used in the past. There's a couple different, firms out there that have tests out there that can be used. The one that we use now, is Standard and Associates. I don't know if anybody's familiar with them, but, their test is, it's okay for, the one for brand new candidates isn't bad. That's the one we're kind of looking that we're gonna go to with them. So,
I was gonna ask another question. What type of, I know with the emergency hire, you have your panel. What, with a list candidate, does that because I'm used to, in Illinois, I think most of us, there'd be a commission interview. Now, how would the oral interviews go with a new candidate off the list?
well, if that's something you guys wanna change, it's something that we're gonna have to look at.
No, I didn't say I wanted to change it, is that something that, would it be the same process?
Yeah, but I mean, I would certainly like your involvement and input on it as well too, for the interviews, to have you guys there as well too. That's perfectly fine, you know, all of us to be involved in it.
I'm gonna back up a half a step here, Chief. We're gonna advertise it at the academy and the town website and stuff. What about the people who don't know or don't have no contact, say with the academy website or something, or?
We could put it in the newspaper as well too, and I mean, advertise it, on our Facebook page, the newspaper, the website. We could, you know, post it at the station. Yeah, I mean, several different avenues that we can use that we generally do.
Right, and that's why I was wondering what you would do. I mean, you don't wanna limit your audience on, at least on a, you know, non-emergency basis.
No, we're gonna reach out every avenue that we can to put it out there.
And I take it the emergency hires would be allowed to take, or would take that test?
If they want to, they can, yes.
Right, I mean, cause that would put them in a different position than here if you just hired regularly.
Correct.
I
And if
guess-
police officers do wanna take go through the whole regular process, they can. I mean,
Right,
if
well,
they
and the
choose
reason
to,
I'm
yeah.
asking is if I was on the emergency hire list and you weren't doing an emergency hire, but you were doing a normal hire, I'd be kinda left out of that process if I was on the list.
right. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
That's
yeah.
what I was hoping for some clarification on. Generally, if you go through the whole list and you establish a hiring list, then your emergency hire list would be null and void, because I think it'd be conflicting to have two different, if you have a vacancy that comes in, I would like to see, if you have a vacancy come in with your department, that we start giving other people that wanna be police the opportunity. So if you have a set hiring list, I mean, I understand there's a place for the emergency hires, but I think we're leaving out a huge pool of opportunity for even the young citizens that might want to be police. So that's why I was trying to see, what was your intention of, once you establish a hiring list, is the emergency hiring list, that should trump the emergency hiring list then for replacements?
Well, you gotta understand the difference between emergency and regular. Emergency, the whole purpose of an emergency hire list is if you have an emergency vacancy, you wanna get that filled as soon as possible, because that leaves you short.
No,
So,
I understand the two differences, and I understand what it means. I think you need to establish what the emergency is, because we all have attrition within our ranks, and just having one person retire doesn't, to me, constitute an emergency hire. That constitutes somebody else getting an opportunity for employment. So I think we've got to establish what constitutes an emergency hire. Because,
well, we're only a 21-man department, so if we lose somebody, it's an emergency. I don't care if it's the chief or the lowest man on a totem pole, it hurts. So
well,
if somebody retires and somebody from patrol moves up to fill that spot, then that leaves a vacancy in patrol, which, if we lose one person, we
Well,
feel it.
All of us in public safety, if we lose one person, but that's why we have hiring lists, and we anticipate that. If all we did was emergency hires, then why establish a hiring list? That should be the reason for having a candidate eligibility list.
Right, but I'm saying, the regular list would be if, say, if it's not an emergency hire, like somebody doesn't retire, and the town council says, okay, we're gonna give you an additional officer on top of what you already have.
See, I disagree with that thinking. We have to have an eligibility list for eligible candidates. An emergency hire to me would be something catastrophic happened and you were down 6 officers. Every department across the United States has changing of the guard. People retire, we lose people, people get hurt and they go off on disability, people do this. I just don't think we're giving enough people the opportunity fairly. So I think, my opinion is that we need to establish a hiring list and for eligible candidates, and that's what's used to hire candidates. And I get it, it may put you a little bit behind, but that's part of the process of public service.
Okay?
Excuse me, I don't disagree with maintaining the emergency list while there's a higher list. But sort of related to that is that, let's say next month the town council approves hiring a 24th officer. Okay, and then 6 months later, a year later, another officer leaves. Does that now constitute an emergency because we're now back to 23 instead of 24 where we approved at?
It can, through state statute, yes, but based on the way we're doing emergency hire, we're meeting the state statute.
Right.
By
So-
law, the way we're doing it, it meets the Indiana state law.
So short of approving additional officers at any given time, every time someone leaves, it automatically
It
becomes
could
an
constitute
emergency. Even though I'm
emergency
3
hire.
officer over what I was a year ago, I'm back into an emergency process, and I can't wait, even though I have additional officers
Correct,
for that
and the
spot.
state law allows us to do that, and we've ran that by our town attorney, and they.
Oh, I'm not questioning legality, I'm just questioning this,
Right.
how it
Right.
works.
But yes, if somebody leaves, it constitutes, through the state law, that constitutes an emergency hire process, which allows you to do that emergency hire, process, if you would. So everything that we did, it's within the state law and guidelines.
Yeah, and again, there's no question at all, I'm sure that's fine, I just, it's just that no matter how many officers you hire, as soon as someone leaves, it becomes an emergency.
Right. It can constitute that, yes.
Right, okay. All right, anybody else have any questions?
Well, I would say if it's due to attrition, we know somebody's leaving or retiring, it's not really an emergency hire. I mean, we have the time to go off of a normal list.
And I would agree with you, I do understand in a town this size, not only citizen-wise, business-wise, distance-wise, when you got 2 guys working, and one guy's over that side of town, and the other guy's on that side of town, and he's calling for help, I'm fully aware how long it seems to take to get there and how fast you need that help. So at some respect, I totally agree with what's being done. I'm just talking about in the future when you get more people, rather than continuing that. But believe me, it's pretty scary waiting for your help knowing he's tied up somewhere on the other side of town.
And that's what we're trying to avoid. We want to make sure, try to get boots on the ground as quick as we can, and that's the whole purpose of the emergency hire.
Right.
And, there's, within the last, I would say, 10 hires maybe, 8 to 10 hires, somewhere in there, it's been a mix. Some of them have been off of a list, just a regular list. Some, we've sent people at academy. Some have been emergency hires, just depending on, what happened, what the situation is.
Right.
So it's been kind of a mix of both.
And I'll be honest with you, 2 or 3 people on a road at a time in this town is a little short.
Yeah, I
It's a
agree.
little short, not only for the citizens, but for the officers themselves and their safety.
Right.
So,
No, and I understand that, Chief, I don't want you to take me wrong, I just want to make sure that we're also giving other candidates the opportunity, so that we look like an equal opportunity employer and all the rest that we need to do. And I understand you're fully within state statute and state law. I read up on the statutes and that, I understand that, I just wanna make sure that the perception of your department is that you are
Oh,
giving
no, I
equal
agree.
opportunity.
I absolutely agree.
So
And
I just want, I
that-
wanna be very careful with emergency hires and make sure there's a good mix and how it works, and maybe the board needs to work on a little bit with the town council, figuring out what constitutes emergency versus what constitutes, because it can start to look bad in the public eye if you're only hiring officers. So I just wanna avoid that and
I
have
mean,
further dis-
is it even possible to, I don't know how you score your test out at this point when you give them, but people with prior experience, just like military points, are given an X amount of points for at least prior experience, which might help a hiring list and move you up the process a little bit, but still not hurt the ordinary citizen and
Yeah,
stuff.
I mean, the only thing that it counts for is military and education. Yeah, if you come in as in a regular hire process with, law enforcement experience already, you don't get extra points for that. It's just if you have a military or educational points.
Can that be amended in some way if necessary, or,
It could, yeah, I mean, that's definitely possible.
okay. Anybody else? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the, starting a new hire process for a 2-year list.
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Paradis made a motion, second. Mr. DeYoung, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, the next thing is I passed out every year we have to renew our towing contracts with tow firms. So there's requests for proposals that I gave to you for your review. So what I'm looking to do is get these to you tonight, so you have time to review them. If you have any questions, comments, or whatever. And then at next month's meeting, officially put the RFPs out to the tow firms. So then it gives them that entire month to pick them up from the police department, fill them out, and then turn them back in for, prior to your April meeting for them to be opened and voted on as to what tow firms we use. So tonight, I'm just giving you this paperwork, just to kind of give you guys a heads up that it's coming up. And that was done April of last year, when these were opened up and approved, so a year forward now, I mean, we're here April of this year, we'll get them approved as well, too.
So at this point, it's just information. We
Just
don't have to approve
information, just so
anything.
you guys have it, you read it, go over it, and then next month, do vote on it to officially putting the RFPs out.
Okay.
Chief, how many tow companies do you keep on now?
Right now, we're at 3,
3?
yeah. Typically, I mean, we had 2 for a long time, and the third was added last year, which I don't think that's, to me, my own personal opinion, I think 2 was more than enough, but that's just me.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay, towing contract, sorry, all right, chief.
And then, I think I brought this up at last month's meeting, acting corporal appointment was, Officer Zuzich. He's filling in the acting corporal spot as of now temporarily, until, such time that we get things situated and we get these hires and everybody kind of set, and then we'll address the promotion, the permanent promotion with them. So I'm just letting you know on that. And then the, part-time records clerk, we hired one, the town approved one, and then she, 2 days later, submitted a letter saying it was too much computer work, she wasn't, and resigned, so we gotta work on that as well, too, so. But just giving you the heads up, and I'll keep you posted on it as well, too.
That it?
If I could
That's
back
it.
up, Chief, do you currently have a promotion list?
Yes, we do.
That's sitting and still valid and it's not
Well,
about to
that's being
expire?
reviewed by the town attorney as well, too, so that's why that's kind of in limbo, because there's question on that,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, public comment? Anybody? Okay,
I'm sorry.
No one has
No
signed
one?
up.
Okay. Motion to adjourn the meeting?
Make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion by Mr. Kamet, second.
Second?
By Mr. Moran. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?